Kaidon Salter has committed to transfer to the University of Colorado, giving Coach Prime two really great prospects at quarterback to succeed what is going to be probably a first-round draft pick and Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, Shedeur Sanders. And really, I think the offense is going to look a lot different, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And we got to talk about what this means for the Big 12 and how Coach Prime is using the Heisman winner and the winning that Colorado has done this season to build and push for what they ultimately want, which is to get to the college football playoff. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching the #1 college football show, please subscribe to the channel, hit the red button, ring the bell, like this video, and leave a comment down below. Let me know who you are and whether or not you think this Kaidon Salter to Colorado thing is going to work, and who do you think is going to be the starting quarterback going into the 2025 season in Boulder. This is a home run for Prime, who goes all the way back with Stalter to Cedar Hill, back when Prime was offensive coordinator at Trinity, and, we just watched Kaden Salter go 12-2 as a starter, win a state championship, commits to sign, and goes to Tennessee, only to get dismissed after a couple of off-the-field incidents, and winds up at Liberty. And in the winding up at Liberty, I was really fascinated to see how this would go with Jamie Chadwell's kind of spread option and what a dual threat quarterback like Kaidon Salter might be able to do with it, especially after what we had seen from guys like Malik Willis way back at Liberty, not in the same offense, obviously, but given the kind of schedule that they're going to play. Now, they've since joined Conference USA, and last year they went undefeated, made it to the Fiesta Bowl, and then Oregon showed them what Power 4 football looks like and how it's going to be. To say nothing of, the same Oregon team is now the #1 team in the country and undefeated and looking like a safe bet to win the national championship. They'd be their first national championship ever. And that's also a sign of the times as much as anything else, right? Oregon is the #1 team in the country with the best chance to win a national championship. I don't think you're going to see that in an era that doesn't have name, image, and likeness. I don't think you're going to see that in an era that doesn't have the transfer portal. And I certainly don't think you were going to see that before we instituted this salary cap, right? $20.5 million across all your sports is what the number's going to be. We expect a large part of that to go toward schools paying players on their football, men's basketball teams, and then dispersing as they need. But you're still going to have your NIL deals that are outside of what the university is controlling, even though they probably like to control all of your name, image, and likeness rights. But that's what contract negotiations are for. That's what agents are for. And agents are 100% making this happen during this particular era. Like, all the news that is breaking alongside an agency's name who is giving this information to a newsbreaker to report. And that's how we learned about Kaidon Salter going to Colorado. I'm curious to find out what the competition between Salter and Julian Lewis will look like, but I know that there's going to be one. We know this because Salter has 1 year of eligibility remaining to play college football. I don't think he transferred to Colorado to not play. That said, I don't think that Julian Lewis wanted to go to Colorado to not play as a freshman either. I think it's going to be a best man win type of situation, and then that's going to be your starting quarterback, and you're going to be happy with the other guy either going into the portal if he's Julian Lewis or just sitting back if you're Kaidon Salter. I think that this also is as cutthroat as it's going to be, and this is also speaking to how the NFL model really is beginning to take effect on roster management. You're not going to have just one quarterback going into the Derby if you don't know who that dude is. You're going to have two good options. One that you hope wins the job outright. You'd love to have this thing tied up before spring. Sometimes it needs to go into the fall. After that, somebody's going to get the start, and then that person's going to have to earn it. And if they play poorly, you want to have someone that you could go to that you think can pick up the pieces and or you can build around later. This is a great way to build around your quarterback and what you're losing, right? You're losing the most prolific passer that Colorado has had, period, in Shedeur Sanders. You're losing the Biletnikoff Award winner at wide receiver, a guy that had 14 touchdowns, 92 catches, and 1,100 receiving yards in Travis Hunter. That said, whoever is going to be the starting quarterback is going to get the benefit of what I think is a young and very much improved, if not good, Colorado offensive line. Phil Loadholt did an absolute job this season. He took on a guy like Cash Cleveland, turned him into what I think is a freshman All-American at center. Say nothing of the 5-star at left tackle in Jordan Seaton. An offensive line that gave up 50 sacks the previous year hasn't done that this year. And many of the sacks that they have allowed have been Shedeur Sanders, who has been given the requisite amount of 2 seconds to throw the football, but, he's going to stay back there moving around until he feels like he's got somebody to throw the football to, notably the dude wearing 12 on his chest, right? I think that as they continue to build this program, we're going to talk a lot about what Kaidon Salter can bring and what Julian Lewis can bring, but what we're really going to focus in on is not the wide receiver core either in Draylon Miller or what you're going to get out of a Jimmy Horn if he's healthy enough to play. You're going to focus on the running game. Do they have one? And that's why I think the offense is going to change, and that's probably a good thing. When you have Kaidon Salter back there, you know that he is capable of beating you with his legs and throwing the ball down the field. I think that could be a 3,000, 1,000-yard guy at Colorado next year, period. I think that because of the Big 12 is not as competitive as it has been in years past, I should say, it's not as competitive toward the top. It is more competitive toward the top. The top end is further down, right? The ceiling is lowered with Oklahoma and Texas leaving. However, I think that this is a much more competitive league, now that I got that out the way. It's more like Colorado has demonstrated, BYU has demonstrated, Arizona State has demonstrated, Iowa State has demonstrated that you better have your head on a swivel in that league, because the teams that were picked to finish near the bottom ended up near the top. And the teams that were picked to finish near the top ended up near the bottom. We didn't think that we would be talking about Utah and Kansas being also Rans in this Big 12 season. We certainly didn't think that Arizona State would rise up from 3-9, pick dead last in the league to win the whole damn thing and to get that number 4 seed in the college football playoff to give them the bye. I think that is indicative of what this league is going to be. Colorado was one of 4 teams to finish in a 4-way tie for first place. Tiebreakers being what they are meant that Iowa State and Arizona State got to play for the Big 12 championship. Now, for Prime, I think you're looking for a quarterback that can help you get to win number 10. You want to get to 10 wins. You want to make the Big 12 championship game. If you can do one of those 2 things, or even both of them, right, you're going to get to the college football playoff, I think. Because at that point, you're talking about getting the 12 best teams according to a selection committee that's made up of human beings. And if you're talking about marketing, and if you're talking about putting teams in, then you're probably going to be talking about Colorado, right? That's one of the reasons that we talk about Colorado is Prime has been very, very good about making this about his players, but also making sure that the spotlight never really leaves Colorado for any length of time, even when they lose a football game. With Kaidon Salter at quarterback, everybody's going to know, okay, that guy knows how to win and win at a high level. Preston Hodge probably telling anybody that would listen, I went into this dude in practice, could transfer from Liberty, and he's the real deal. And, Prime is always like the guys that he's known since they were small. I mean, that's how Dylan Edwards ended up at Colorado to start after, being heavily recruited by Notre Dame, Kansas State, ends up going to Colorado and being one of their best pass catchers in an offense that really didn't run the ball very well. I would love to see them get a big-time running back out of the portal. I don't know if that's going to happen, but getting a guy like Jaheim Otis from Alabama to transfer, and a guy that's from Mississippi who got to see what Deion Sanders was building in Jackson State, wanting to make that defensive line that much better, that also gives you reason to believe that Colorado is going to be a force in the Big 12 and probably ends up being a preseason top 25 team if things continue as they are. They've been really hitting the portal hard. They're turning over the roster as they need to, trying to put together the kind of roster they think can compete year in and year out, and they are unafraid of change. That's the thing that I think is important about this Kaidon Salter transfer and Julian Lewis signing. One of those 2 dudes is going to win. And then we're going to build a football team around that quarterback. And we're going to hope that the rest of the team understands that everybody's job is up for grabs until we play games. And then we play games, and then we'll see, right? You got to prove it then. I'm very excited to see what this offense is going to look like with Pat Shurmur. I think what he did with Nick Foles was remarkable. What he did with Case Keenum was remarkable. And frankly, what he did just playing to Shedeur Sanders' strengths, pretty damn good, given what that offense is capable of doing, putting up 40, and what that defense allowed for y'all to put up 40, and us, we'll stop some people from time to time. Like, that defense is not a sieve. Again, I had Robert Livingston ranked number 5 in my Broyles Award finalist list, and I thought he should have been a finalist for what he was able to do with that defense. But they get another chance to do this. I think the staff is going to mostly stay intact, and I think that there's some really good reason to believe Colorado's going to win a lot of football games next year, whether it's Kaidon Salter or Julian Lewis as a starting quarterback.